Benjamin Franklin, at your service. Just know it does my heart so well having the opportunity to be with you today.
Very well. Well, again, we're grateful you're here, and we hope you enjoy our show, because in America, I think we'll all agree that, yes, we're not perfect. Yes, we need to repent of many things, but I think we're a pretty great country.
What is America to me? A name,
A map or a flag I see, a certain word, it's liberty. That is America to me.
the house I live in, a plot of earth, a street, the grocer and the butcher, or the people that I meet, the children in the playground, the faces that I see, all races and religions, that's America to me.
The place I work in, the worker at my side, a little town or city where my people lived and died. The howdy and the handshake, the air and feeling free, and the right to speak my mind out, that's America to me. Whenever freedom's threatened, it means much more to me. The right to raise our children and live as we believe. We know we must defend her before she disappears. Preserve the dream that has survived for over 200 years. The house we live in, the good things everywhere, a land of wealth and beauty, with enough for all to share, a nation blessed by heaven, a home of liberty, and a freedom-loving people. That's America to me.
The spirit of freedom and liberty lies in the hearts of all nations, a spirit that declares that all people should be free of tyranny and oppression, a spirit required by all men to know and understand their natural God-given rights. Throughout history, men and women have cried out and fought to champion the cause of freedom, the individual worth of all, and the protection of their rights. The incredible, miraculous beginning of America is a story of conflict, struggle, passion, and the desire of a people wanting to be free.
America, we are thy sons, and we shall keep thee free. For in our veins there flows the blood of Washington and Lee.
No foreign flag upon thy sod shall we allow to stand. No iron shackles from abroad shall touch thy foot or hand. They mock thy army, say 'tis small, thy navy too they scorn. Have they forgot the laurels won since freedom here was born? They say thy untrained citizens will never soldiers be. Have they forgot those valiant men who fought in '63? America, thy sons are true, and if thou wilt but call, 10 million men will give to thee their homes, their lives, their all. For thou to stand for what is right, for freedom of the seas. God grant old glory may always float forever in the breeze.
Freedom is a God-given gift, promising life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for every person. But freedom is not easy, and it is never free. It usually comes with a price, and that price can be that of one's own life. In the early 1400s, St. Joan of Arc, heroine of France, cried out as she tried to champion the cause of freedom, and boldly, at the age of 17, she led the French army. When Joan was just 13 years old, she heard a voice calling her to deliver France from England, and she boldly and heroically convinced the King of France to make her the military leader of their armies.
Joan, you shall put on masculine clothes, for you are she who has been chosen by the King of Heaven to restore the kingdom of France and to aid and protect King Charles, who has been driven from his domain. You will accomplish miraculous things.
I stood in awe. I knew that what I'd heard was real, but I didn't even know how to ride a horse, let alone lead an army into battle. With great determination, I departed my home forever. After much scrutiny and rigorous examination by the king, I was finally granted my desire to lead the French army into battle.
Know all men that the most illustrious Charles, King of France, by the grace of God, is pleased to bestow upon his well-beloved servant, Joan of Arc, the titles, emoluments, and authorities of General-in-Chief of the armies of France.
Now that I had the blessings of God and of knighthood, I felt confident, energetic, and seemed to have a great endurance for fatigue. Sometimes, when all seemed lost, and my men were exhausted and discouraged, I went off to pray. I'm just a girl, barely old enough to leave my family, yet I know you've chosen me. I must be brave, but I must confess that I am so afraid, as my men are losing faith. Lord, give me strength. Lord, give me courage as this young girl in armor fights against the foe. Lord, please have mercy. Lord, give me power. Renew my conviction. Help my confidence grow.
Men,
Lord, give me
I'm
strength.
tired and discouraged,
Lord, give
wondering
me
what we're
courage as
fighting
this young girl in armor
for.
fights against the foe. Lord, please have mercy. Lord, give us power. Renew our conviction. Help our confidence grow. Men, take courage. God is with us as we fight this bloody war. See our banner way before us, showing what we're fighting for.
For our homes, for families,
For God and liberty. Lead us onward into battle, all our faith we place in thee. My sacred banner filled my men with confidence. They were renewed to achieve the impossible. The victory was close at hand. My men followed me with my indomitable courage as we charged over the walls of our enemy. The English, thinking they were safe, found themselves under attack in front and in back. As now into battle we triumphantly go. Men, follow me!
But despite the attack, on May 26, 1430, Joan was captured. She was in prison and kept in heavy chains for months. She was accused of witchcraft and of following the devil after she miraculously survived an arrow wound. Her freedom would be granted only upon her denial of the voices. Nothing would change her mind, and she stood by her testimony. The fires were ignited around the stake, and they gave her one more time to recant.
Every man gives his life for what he believes. Every woman gives her life for what she believes. Sometimes people believe in little or nothing, and yet they give their lives to that little or nothing. One life is all we have. We live it as we believe in living it, and then it's gone. But to surrender what you are and live without belief is more terrible than dying.
There they are. On. Do you hear the people singing the song of angry men? It is the music of a people who will not be slaves again. When the beating of your heart echoes the beating of the drums, there is a life about to start when tomorrow comes. You join in our crusade, who will be strong and stand with me. Beyond the barricade, is there a world you long to see?
Then join the fight that will give you the right to be free. Do you hear the people singing the song of angry men? It is the music of a people who will not be slaves again. When the beating of your heart echoes the beating of the drums, there is a life about to start tomorrow.
May advance. Some will fall and some will live. Will you stand up and take your chance?
The blood of the martyrs will water the meadows of France. Singing the song of every man. It is the music of a people who must be slaves again. When the beating of your heart echoes the beating of the drums, there is a life about to start when tomorrow comes.
We hear the cries of angry men and women from around the world, such as the cries from the Dutch in the 1500s when they were under attack by the Spaniards. These poor Dutch people suffered many atrocity by the Spaniards. They had been taxed unjustly, their property had been seized, and many had been thrown into prison. And not only that, thousands had been burned at the stake for simply reading their Bible. Peter van der Werf was a burgomaster, and he did everything in his power to rescue the Dutch people and their land from the cruel bonds of oppression. But the people were starving, and thousands had already died. The few remaining were surviving on cats, rats, and dogs. Babies were dying in their mother's arms, disease was rampant, and dead bodies were everywhere. Now, despite their longing for freedom, some of the men began to beg the burgomaster to give up.
Would you have me surrender? I have taken an oath to hold this city. May God give me strength to keep it. Here, take my sword, plunge it into my body, divide my flesh to appease your hunger if you will. But God help me, I will never surrender. You call us rat eaters! We are. But so long as you hear a dog bark within these walls, you will know that the city holds out. We will eat our left arms and fight with our right. And when we have strength no longer, we will set fire to the city and perish in the flames rather than give up our liberties. David walked into the valley with a stone clutched in his hand. He was only a boy, but he knew someone must take a stand. There will always be a valley, always mountains one must scale. There will always be perilous waters which someone must sail.
Into valleys, into waters, into jungles, into hell. Let us ride home again with a story to tell. Into darkness, into danger, into storms that rip the night. Don't give in, don't give up, but give thanks for the glorious fight.
You can tremble, you can fear it, but keep your fighting spirit alive, boys.
Let the shiver of it sting you.
Fling into battle.
Spring to your feet, boys.
Never hold back your step for a moment.
Never doubt that your courage will grow. Hold your head even higher and into the fire we go.
Men, if we don't stand for something, we will fall for anything. Are there mountains that surround us? Are there walls that block the way? Knock 'em down! Strip 'em back, boys, and forward, and into the fray.
Into terror, into valor, charge ahead, no, never turn.
Yes, it's into the fire we fly, and the devil will burn. Someone has to miss a valley rushing. We have to rally and win, boys. When the world is saying not to, that's when you know you've got to march on, boys. Never hold back your step for a moment.
Never!
Never doubt that your courage will grow.
Hold your head even higher and into the fire we go.
Let the lightning strike, let the flash of it shock you.
Choke your fears away, pull as tight as a wire.
That's the spirit! Let the fever spike, let the force of it rock you! Die!
We will have our day sailing into the fire.
Yes! It is better for us to die free men than to live in a world of tyranny. Someone has to face the valley. Let's rally and win.
When the world is saying not to,
That's when you know you've got to march on, boys. Never hold back your step for a moment.
Never!
Look alive or your courage will grow. Yes, it's higher and higher and into the fire we go. Into fire, onward, oh.
At the turn of the 16th century, we hear another cry for freedom. We take you to a region called Scrooby, England. In those days, everyone, rich or poor, had to belong to the Church of England. Rejecting the doctrines of the Church of England was a crime punishable by prison or even death. The separatists sold their homes and most of their possessions, only to be caught, robbed of the few things they had left, and thrown into dungeons or forced to live in the streets. These compassionate, freedom-loving people did all they could to keep their dream of the promised land alive.
Stop that! You're hurting my arm!
Good. What were you thinking? We know what we saw. The king orders you back. You've broken his law.
We've done nothing wrong. Please just let us be. We're hungry. We're suffering. Oh, can't you see?
You're troublemakers. You have no rights.
Where is your sympathy?
No more secretive nights.
Gold fills your coffers and we don't have a dime. We're whipped. We're beggars forced into crime.
You shall
God,
come
why
to
can't
see.
we
The king has
understand?
ordered me.
Please set
God is
us
on his
free.
side.
We
You
trust
have
in
nowhere
thee.
to hide. The
For
king's law
this
is
we
just.
will
In him
not
I put my
stand.
trust.
Our
He commands you now.
is
And
what
you
we
bow.
need. Please let us go.
Stop this madness! The king says no!
Long ago and far away, before the world had come to this, I took for granted how my life would be, assuming that my freedom would be free. Before these evening shadows fell, I reveled in the light of day. I rarely ever cried. My patience wasn't tried, and heroes never died. But if I had my way, things would be different. Danger wouldn't come from a sky of blue. Choices would be clear, strangers would be kinder, love a little blinder. This is what I pray if I had my way. It's merry old England for the rich, but we, the poor and scrooby, have only but a scrap to eat. We work and we slave for the social elite. We have rags on our backs, forced to beg in the street. People are hung for their beliefs. Bibles are burned in Scrooby. We've suffered long without relief. Why should we endure such moral decay? Our children are taunted and tempted to stray. A place of our own, things would be different. Danger wouldn't come from a sky of blue. Angels would appear, children would be cherished. Hope would never perish, faith would not betray. If I had my way.
Finally, in the late summer of 1608, the Scrooby separatists reached Holland. Though the air was charged with energy and excitement, it was not the kind of life they were looking for. The separatists refused to let their children be taught the ways of the liberal Dutch. The expectations for a newfound freedom ignited the fire in their hearts, so they left their homes to board a crowded ship, cross a vast ocean, and sail to the free land of America.
We've been traveling far without a home, but not without a star. Free, only want to be free. We huddle close, hang on to a dream.
My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing.
Coming to America, there's freedom in America, our new home in America. Here we come, America.
The first half of the voyage was rather smooth, but then they were faced with bad storms, sickness, and even death set in. And it became doubtful that they would even make it to America. And when they landed, they had nothing but their faith to sustain them.
Our fathers, God, to the author of liberty, to thee we sing.
After they landed, they were greeted by two Native Americans, Samoset and Squanto. These two helped the separatists immensely. Later, the colonists were beginning to feel comfortable in their new world, but they were still under the rule of the King of England, and he was making their lives miserable. They were ordered to fight England's wars and pay for them with heavy taxes and unjust laws. These demands became so unbearable and intolerable that the colonists began to rebel against the king.
So much lighter now.
The king! Oh, what does the king have on his mind tonight? It's yes, your majesty.
Tyranny? Tyranny, you say? Stop complaining. Can't you understand that I am the king? And you'll say, yes, your majesty, to everything I ask.
It's no, your majesty.
It's war, your majesty. A revolution, your majesty. Yes, your majesty. The answer is war.
And war it shall be.
The air was supercharged with the buzz and fever of revolution. People could smell it in the air. They could feel it in their bones. It was Patrick Henry who ignited that spark as he spoke these famous words to the Virginia representatives.
Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace. But there is no peace. The war has actually begun. Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here idle? What is it that gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear, or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God! I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death.
The colonists were now ready for war. A few brave men warned the Minutemen of Lexington and Concord that the British were coming.
The British are coming. The British are coming. The British are coming. Get up. The British are coming. The British are coming.
Come, children. Come, children. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. On the 18th of April in 75, hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year. He said to his friend, "If the British march from the town tonight, by land or by sea, hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch of the North Church Tower as a signal light. One, if by land, and two, if by sea. And I on the opposite shore shall be, ready to ride and sound the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm, for the country folk to be up and to arm. Listen, my children, can you hear the hoofbeats across the land? Can you hear the whinnying of the horses? Are you ready to ride with Paul Revere?"
By July 1776, the colonists were still under the rule of the king. There was a lot at stake, for declaring independence was a very serious matter. Under English law, if they opposed the king, they would be treated as traitors. If they joined the rebels, they risked not only their own lives, but also the lives of their families. The colonists sent representatives to the Continental Congress to discuss independence from Great Britain. Now, the colonies needed to be unanimous in their decision to adopt the resolution to declare independence. These were very wise men, all of great character, and they knew all that they stood to lose. And knowing all this, they mutually pledged to each other their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. They then chose to declare independence.
Sink or swim. Live or die. Survive or perish. I give my hand and heart to this vote. There's a divinity that shapes our ends. Why then should we defer the declaration? We may not live to the time when this declaration shall be made good, but it will stand. It may cost treasure, and it may cost blood, but it will stand, and it will richly compensate for them both.
These words will go forth to the world when our bones are dust, to the slaves in bondage, that they may speak hope, to the mechanic in his workshop, freedom. That parchment will go forth to kings in language sad and terrible as the trumpet of the archangel. You have trampled on the rights of mankind long enough. At last, the voice of human woe has pierced the ear of God and called his judgment down.
Sign if the next moment the gibbet's rope is around your neck.
Sign if the next moment this hall rings with the echo of the falling axe.
Sign by all your hopes in life or death, as husbands, fathers, as men with our names to this parchment will be accursed forever.
Sign, not only for yourselves, but for all ages, for this parchment will be the textbook of freedom and the Bible of the rights of man forever.
Father, the old world is baptized in blood. Father, it is drenched in the blood of millions who have been executed in slow and grinding oppression. Yes, were my soul trembling on the wings of eternity, were this hand freezing to death, were my voice choking in the last struggle, I would still, with the last gasp of my voice, beg you to sign this declaration and implore you to remember this truth. God has declared that America is to be free from oppression.
Come, gentlemen. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government. Gentlemen, today we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. This is the moment we have waited for. This is the moment. This is the day when I send all my doubts and demons on their way. Every endeavor I have made ever is coming into play, is here and now today.
This is the moment, this is the time, when the momentum and the moment are in rhyme. Give me this moment, this precious chance. I'll gather up my past and make some sense at last. This is the moment when all we've done, all of the dreaming, scheming, and screaming become one. This is the day. See it sparkle and shine when all I lived for becomes mine. For all these years, we faced the world alone, and now the time has come to prove to them we've made it on our own. This is the moment, our final test. Destiny beckons, I never reckoned second best.
I won't look down.
No, I must not fall. This is the moment, the sweetest moment of them all. This is the moment we face the odds. This day or never, we'll stay forever with our God. When we look back, we will always recall, moment for moment. This is the moment, the sweetest moment of them all.
America was now a new nation. But as we know, freedom is never free. On the very day the Declaration was signed, England's own General Howe sailed into New York Harbor with the largest armada ever assembled. This was going to be a fight to the bitter end. We needed George Washington to lead us to victory. But after losing 5 important battles in New York and being chased all over New Jersey, Washington's men were a pathetic sight when he positioned them on the west side of the Delaware. The brutal Hessian mercenaries kept an eye on them from Trenton. Now, the turning point of the war was found in the heart of Washington himself when he read Tom Paine's crisis letter, number 1.
These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will in this crisis shrink from the service of their country. But he who stands by it now deserves the love and thanks of men and women. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered.
In our day, we need more heroes, someone to look up to, someone to lead us or even help us through our trials. Someone like George Washington.
Come on, everybody. We're singing about the founder of our country, our first general, our first president, and the one to whom we owe so much. He had hope in America when all it lost. So put your hands together and clap along. You know who I'm talking about.
George Washington. His love of country and sense of duty were matched by no man. He was a great man of war, and every soldier looked up to him with great trust. He had absolute courage and determination in every good cause. He was the most respected man in America and should be today.
By December 1776, the Continental Army had lost nearly every major battle, on the verge of defeat. The Hessians were coming on strong. Washington's men were starving, freezing, had rags in their feet, and not many weapons. George made his next move and did what all great leaders would do. He attacked the enemy.
Come on, man, let's get those Hessians. Settle down. I know God's on our side. So pray with me tonight. Oh, dear God. Oh, what shall we do? We must save our country. We need help from you. Please help us through this terrible night. Can I ask for anything more? Let's build a barricade. Fire 1, fire 2, fire 3. Let's get those Hessians.
Even though the war was won, it was not many years before America was once again in conflict with England. It was the War of 1812, and British warships had entered Baltimore Harbor. Francis Scott Key, a Washington lawyer, was given permission to negotiate the release of his civilian friend, who was being held prisoner.
Mr. Key, we will consent to the release of Dr. Bean, but you will be kept prisoner on this ship since you now know of our plans to attack Fort McHenry.
You can't shell that fort.
We can and will. Apparently, burning down your capital, your treasury, and your president's home was not enough. We'll see if this attack succeeds in breaking the will of the American people. The shelling will stop if your people lower the flag and surrender the fort.
The shelling commenced on a rainy September 13th, 1814. As the bombs exploded, Francis Scott Key could see the flag illuminated in the red glare.
How many British ships are there?
I count 16.
Do you think the fort will succumb?
Chances of an American victory under so much fire are slim. It seems as if Mother Earth has opened and is vomiting shot and shell in a sheet of fire and brimstone. Please, God, keep that flag waving.
After 25 hours, the shelling finally ceased. As the dawn broke and the smoke cleared, Key and Beans were anxious about what they would see.
Which flag is flying over the ramparts?
The American flag.
Francis Scott Key penned these words while on the ship that morning.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Then conquer we must, when our cause it is just, and this be our motto, in God is our trust, and the star-spangled banner in triumph shall wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
The cries of freedom continued throughout the land for nearly 100 years after America declared that all men are created equal. Many people of color had been mistreated in America. Their cries were expressed through their songs and their prayer. After a brutal civil war and several amendments to the Constitution, they could be set free from oppression. The rights of all men were acknowledged in Abraham Lincoln's inaugural address when he said, "With malice toward none, with charity towards all, let us strive on for lasting peace." And America's message of freedom spread fast throughout the world. The downtrodden people from every country came by the thousands seeking a better life. And when they saw the Statue of Liberty, they knew they had come to the right place. For there she stood, with her crown of 7 spikes shining forth and inviting the 7 continents and the 7 seas of the world to come to the land of the free. Clenched in her arm were the tables of law, inscripted with the date 1776, signifying the Declaration of Independence, which formed the first nation of a truly free people. At her feet was the broken chain of tyranny that had dominated the history of the entire world until the birth of America. And in her uplifted arm rose the glowing torch, offering the light of hope to those living in a darkened world of oppression. Tears streamed down the immigrants' faces, and they fell on bended knee, for they knew they had found their home at last.
The prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America. God bless America. God bless America. My home, sweet
These incredible young people do an incredible job telling us of the stories of many people who have fought and died seeking freedom and liberty. Now, we know there are so many more people, so many more stories. But, ladies and gentlemen, we're in a new situation today in our own country when freedom is being questioned, when liberty is being trampled by some. So I ask you now, what are we prepared to do? We must be willing to do anything that it takes to keep our freedom and liberty. History tells us of many groups that had freedom and liberty and lost it. They never got it back. We have the Declaration of Independence. That document is the foundation of a good government. The Constitution of the United States is still the supreme law of this land. May we do everything in our power to uphold both documents. We want to be able to hold to that which is most dear: God, family, country. And may we remember that united we stand, divided, and we will fall. And may we every day pray that God will continue to bless these United States of America.
out and tell our story to your daughters and your sons.
And tell them in our struggles we were not the only ones.
And say to those who blame us for the way we chose to fight, that sometimes there are battles which are more than black or white.
And I could not put down my sword when justice was my right.
Make them hear you. Your sword can be a sermon or the power of a pen.
Teach every child to raise his voice, and then my brothers then.
Will justice be demanded by 10 million righteous men? Make them hear you. When they hear you, will we hear you
We would like to invite you to come forward and greet and thank these fine servicemen and women. Thank you for coming.